The metal corridors of Frosthaven Research Facility were always cold. Not just cool or chilly, but bone-chilling cold. Trevor Hayes pulled his thermal jacket tighter around his shoulders as he made his way through the pristine hallways, his breath forming small clouds in front of his face. After 3 years working as a life support engineer for Xenogenesis Corporation, he'd grown accustomed to the frigid temperatures that kept the facility at a constant 60 degrees. What he hadn't grown accustomed to was the monotony. Another day, another duct, he muttered to himself as he checked his tablet for the day's maintenance schedule. The screen illuminated his face with a harsh blue glow, showing a list of routine tasks. Check oxygen levels in Section 4. Recalibrate the heating system in Lab 12. Repair the observation glass in Corridor B. Nothing exciting, nothing new. Just the same repetitive tasks he'd been doing for years. Xenogenesis Corporation was the leading biotech company in the galaxy, with research facilities spread across 17 planets. Their work in genetic research had revolutionized medicine and extended human lifespans by decades. But Trevor knew there was more to the company than its public image suggested. There were whispers among the staff about secret projects, especially here at Frosthaven, where the most sensitive experiments were conducted. He had never been allowed into the special specimens room. No one had, except for a select few scientists with the highest security clearance. Trevor had always wondered what was behind those frosted glass doors. What kind of research was so important that it required such secrecy? But he'd never had the courage or the opportunity to find out. Until today, as Trevor knelt beside an exposed heating pipe, adjusting the flow rate with practiced precision, he heard something, a voice, faint and muffled, coming from behind the sealed door of the special specimens room. He froze, his hand still on the valve. "Hello?" he called out, uncertain if he'd imagined it. Silence. Then, so quiet he almost missed it. "Open the door! Human! Free me!" The voice was feminine but strange, melodic and slightly echoing, with an accent he couldn't place. It wasn't a human voice. Of that, he was certain. "Who's there?" Trevor whispered, glancing nervously down the corridor to make sure no one was approaching. "Please," the voice pleaded, sounding weaker now. "They will kill me. For my DNA." Trevor felt a chill that had nothing to do with the facility's temperature. He stood up, approaching the frosted glass door cautiously. Through the thick material, he could make out only vague shapes, equipment, monitoring devices, and what appeared to be a containment unit in the center of the room. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice barely audible. "I am Zeli." "Zeli Ara," the voice replied, a hint of pride mixed with desperation. "The last of my kind they could capture. Please, help me." Before Trevor could respond, the sharp click of heels against the metal floor echoed down the corridor. He quickly returned to the heating pipe, pretending to be absorbed in his work as Dr. Marisol Klein, head of cellular research, approached with 2 security guards. "Hayes, isn't it?" she asked, her tone icy. Her sleek black hair was pulled back in a tight bun, her lab coat immaculate despite the freezing conditions. "Yes, Dr. Klein," Trevor replied, avoiding her penetrating gaze. "What are you doing in this section? Your clearance doesn't extend to this area." Her eyes narrowed suspiciously. Trevor gestured to the pipe. "Just fixing a heating issue. The system flagged an irregularity in the thermal flow." He kept his voice steady, though his heart was racing. Dr. Klein studied him for a moment longer before nodding curtly. "Finish quickly and leave. This area is restricted for a reason." She turned to the guards. "Escort him out when he's done." As she walked away, Trevor caught a glimpse of her tablet screen. It displayed a complex sequence of what looked like DNA strands, but unlike any he had ever seen, glowing with an unusual blue-green hue. The guards positioned themselves at either end of the corridor, watching him with blank expressions. Trevor completed his work as quickly as possible, his mind racing with questions. Who, or what, was Zeli Ara? What were they doing to her behind that door? And why did she believe they would kill her for her DNA? He couldn't stop thinking about the voice as he made his way back to his quarters that evening. The desperation in those few words had stirred something in him, a sense of responsibility he'd never felt before. All his life, Trevor had been content to follow rules, to do his job without asking questions. But now, for the first time, he felt compelled to act. In the facility's communal dining hall, Trevor sat alone, pushing his food around his plate as he contemplated what to do. The hall was sparsely populated at this late hour, with just a few technicians and security personnel scattered at different tables. "You look like you've seen a ghost," said a friendly voice. Trevor looked up to see Maya Lin, a systems programmer he'd worked with occasionally, sliding into the seat across from him. At 28, Maya was brilliant and warm, with an infectious enthusiasm for her work that contrasted sharply with the sterile environment of Frosthaven. "Just tired," Trevor lied, forcing a smile. Maya leaned forward, lowering her voice. "I know that look. You've found something, haven't you?" Trevor hesitated. Could he trust her? He had always liked Maya. She was one of the few people at Frosthaven who treated the technical staff as equals rather than subordinates. But this was dangerous territory. "I don't know what you mean," he said carefully. Maya's eyes darted around the room before she spoke again. "Listen, not everyone here is blind to what's going on. Some of us have questions too." She slid a small device across the table, a micro-audio recorder disguised as a standard issue ID badge. "If you ever need to document something unusual." Before Trevor could respond, Maya stood up and walked away, leaving him staring at the device. He slipped it into his pocket, his mind made up. Over the next week, Trevor created excuses to work near the special specimens room. He placed Maya's micro-recorder near the ventilation ducts, hoping to capture more of Zeli Ara's voice. Each night, he would retrieve the device and listen to the recordings in the privacy of his quarters. Slowly, a horrifying picture emerged. Zeli was being subjected to painful experiments, genetic sampling, tissue extractions, psychological tests designed to stress her body into producing specific proteins. Through fragments of conversations between scientists, Trevor learned that Zeli belonged to a species called the Zeli, a race with extraordinary regenerative abilities and unique immune responses that could revolutionize human medicine. Subject shows remarkable adaptation to cellular invasion. One scientist noted clinically in a recorded session, "The DNA repair mechanism is unlike anything we've seen. If we can isolate the responsible genes, the military applications alone would be worth billions." "Proceed with the deep tissue sampling tomorrow," came Dr. Klein's unmistakable voice. "I want a complete genetic map before the board meeting next week. If the subject's condition deteriorates, we'll move to full extraction. We can always preserve the viable cells even if the host doesn't survive." Trevor felt sick. They weren't treating Zeli as a sentient being, just as a collection of valuable genes to be harvested, and they were prepared to kill her to get what they wanted. One evening, as he was replaying the recordings, a knock at his door made him jump. He quickly shut off the device and opened the door to find Rodney Kim, a cybersecurity specialist he knew only in passing. "We need to talk," Rodney said quietly, glancing nervously down the corridor. "Maya sent me." Once inside, Rodney revealed that he, Maya, and a few others had been monitoring Xenogenesis's activities for months. They suspected illegal genetic experiments, but had never been able to confirm their suspicions, until now. "We've been trying to get access to the special specimens room for ages," Rodney explained, his voice tense with excitement. "If what you've recorded is true, this could be the evidence we need to bring down the whole operation." "Bring it down?" Trevor echoed, suddenly aware of how deep he was getting. "I just want to help her, Zeli." Rodney's expression softened. "And That's why Maya trusted you. You see her as a person, not a specimen. He pulled out a tablet and showed Trevor a complex diagram of the facility's security system. I can help you get to her, but we'll need to be careful. One wrong move and we're all finished. Together, they formulated a plan. Rodney would create a security blind spot by looping the camera feeds. Maya would generate a false maintenance alert to give Trevor access to the restricted area. And Trevor would use his engineering knowledge to bypass the room's environmental controls, creating a situation where emergency access would be granted. The plan was set for 3 days later, during the night shift when the facility was at its quietest. But as Trevor lay in bed that night, doubt crept in. Was he really prepared to risk everything? His job, his freedom, possibly even his life, for someone he'd never even seen? Someone who wasn't even human? Then he remembered the desperation in Zelly's voice. "Open the door! Human! Free me!" He couldn't ignore that plea. Couldn't pretend he hadn't heard it. Whatever Zelly was, she was intelligent, aware, and suffering. That was enough. The night of the rescue attempt arrived with a tension that seemed to electrify the air. Trevor moved through his regular maintenance routine, trying to appear calm while his heart hammered against his ribs. At precisely 2:37 a.m., as planned, the alarm system in Lab 14, far from the special specimens room, triggered a facility-wide alert. As security personnel rushed to investigate, Trevor made his way to the environmental control room. With Rodney's guidance through his earpiece, he navigated the facility's complex systems, creating a cascade of minor malfunctions that would culminate in a critical failure alert for the special specimens room. "Temperature regulation system failing in Section 5, announced the facility's automated voice. "Emergency personnel required for manual override." Trevor, as the on-duty engineer, was automatically granted temporary access. With trembling hands, he swiped his ID card and entered the antechamber to the special specimens room. He had less than 10 minutes before the system would register that the alert had been falsified. The antechamber was a sterile space with decontamination equipment and environmental suits. Trevor quickly donned one of the suits and approached the inner door. Through the small window, he could finally see into the room that had been the subject of so much secrecy. What he saw made his blood run cold. In the center of the room was a transparent containment unit, filled with a pale blue liquid. Suspended within was a humanoid figure, female in form, but clearly not human. Her skin had a translucent quality, with a subtle blue luminescence that pulsed gently. Her eyes were closed, but as if sensing his presence, they suddenly opened, revealing irises of brilliant gold that seemed to glow from within. It was Zeliara. Their eyes met across the room, and Trevor saw a flicker of hope illuminate her face. She pressed a delicate hand against the glass of her prison, her mouth forming words he couldn't hear. Trevor's resolve hardened. He had come this far. He couldn't turn back now. He entered the final override code that Rodney had provided, and the inner door slid open with a soft hiss. The cold inside the special specimens room was even more intense, designed to slow Zelly's metabolism and keep her in a state of semi-suspended animation. Trevor approached the containment unit, searching for the release mechanism. "You came." Zelly's voice was clearer now, transmitted through speakers on the containment unit. Her words had a musical quality, like chimes in a gentle breeze. "I knew you would hear me." "I'm going to get you out," Trevor promised, examining the control panel. "But we don't have much time." As he worked to understand the complex release sequence, the facility's main lights suddenly went out, replaced by the pulsing red of emergency lighting. An alarm blared, different from the one they had triggered. "Trevor, we've been compromised." Maya's panicked voice came through his earpiece. "Someone detected the camera loop. Security is headed your way. You have maybe 2 minutes." Trevor worked faster, his fingers flying over the control panel. Finally, he found the emergency release sequence and entered it. The blue liquid began to drain from the containment unit, and the glass walls retracted into the floor. Zelly collapsed forward as the supporting liquid disappeared, falling into Trevor's arms. She was lighter than he expected, her body temperature significantly lower than a human's. Up close, he could see the intricate patterns that swirled beneath her translucent skin, like constellations trapped just beneath the surface. "Can you walk?" he asked urgently, supporting her weight. Zelly nodded weakly, her golden eyes intense. "The cold. It weakens me. But yes, I can move." Trevor guided her toward the door. But before they could reach it, the lights flickered back to full brightness. The main door to the antechamber slid open, revealing Dr. Klein flanked by 4 security guards, their weapons drawn. "Step away from the specimen." "Hayes," Dr. Klein commanded, her voice glacial. "You have no idea what you're interfering with." Trevor positioned himself between the guards and Zelly. "She's not a specimen. She's a person. And what you're doing to her is wrong." Dr. Klein's laugh was devoid of humor. "Person? She's the key to the next evolution of human medicine. The genetic material in her cells could save millions of lives, eradicate diseases that have plagued us for centuries. What's one alien life compared to that?" "My people are not your resource," Zelly said, her voice stronger now despite her weakened state. "We sought peaceful contact, and you responded with cages and needles." "Your people fled when we approached," Dr. Klein countered. "We had to take what we could." "Because you came with weapons, not words," Zelly replied. "As you always do." Dr. Klein signaled to the guards. "Enough. Restrain them both. The board will decide what to do with Hayes later." As the guards advanced, the lights suddenly went out again. In the momentary confusion, Trevor felt a hand grasp his arm firmly. "This way," whispered a male voice he didn't recognize. "Quickly!" Trusting instinct, Trevor guided Zelly toward the voice. They stumbled through the darkness into a side passage that Trevor hadn't noticed before. The mystery man closed a hidden panel behind them, shutting out the sounds of shouting and alarm. In the dim, emergency lighting, Trevor saw their rescuer's face, Jake Morrison, the military observer who had been stationed at Frosthaven for months. Trevor had always assumed Morrison was there to ensure Xenogenesis's research benefited the military. Now, he wasn't so sure. "Civil Alliance Intelligence," Morrison explained briefly, leading them down the narrow service corridor. "I've been investigating xenogenesis for illegal xenobiological experimentation. Your friends Maya and Rodney contacted me when they realized what you'd discovered." The service corridor led them deep into the facility's maintenance level, a maze of pipes and conduits that carried the lifeblood of Frosthaven: oxygen, heat, water, and data. Trevor had worked in these areas countless times, but had never known about this particular passage. "Where are we going?" Trevor asked, still supporting Zelly, who was gradually regaining her strength as they moved away from the extreme cold of her containment room. "Emergency shuttle bay," Morrison replied tersely. "It's our only way off this rock. Your friend Maya is meeting us there with evidence of what they've been doing to Zelly and others like her." "Others?" Trevor glanced at Zelly, whose expression had grown pained. "My family," she whispered. "My sister was captured with me. They told me she died during their tests." Morrison's face hardened. "Xenogenesis has at least 3 other facilities like this one. We've suspected for years, but could never prove it." They reached a junction where the service corridor intersected with a larger maintenance tunnel. Morrison held up a hand, signaling them to stop as he checked his tactical display. "Security is sweeping all main corridors," he reported. "They've locked down the primary shuttle bays, but they don't know about the emergency extraction point yet. We need to move fast before they figure it out." As they prepared to continue, the tunnel suddenly flooded with light. Standing at the far end was Dr. Klein, her face contorted with rage, a security team behind her. You're making a grave mistake. Morrison, she called out. The Civil Alliance knows the value of our work here. They won't thank you for destroying years of research. The Alliance authorized observation, not torture, Morrison replied coolly, drawing a compact stun weapon from his jacket. Your board overreached, Dr. Klein. Now they'll answer for it. What followed was chaos. Morrison fired his weapon, temporarily disabling the lights again. Trevor pulled Zelly into a side passage as security personnel rushed forward. The sound of stun weapons discharging echoed through the tunnels, along with shouts and the heavy thud of bodies falling. When the emergency lights flickered back on, Morrison was gone, and 3 security guards lay unconscious on the ground. Dr. Klein was nowhere to be seen. We need to keep moving, Trevor urged, guiding Zelly forward. Morrison must have gone ahead to clear the path. They navigated through the maintenance tunnels, using Trevor's knowledge of the facility's layout to avoid the main corridors where security would be heaviest. Zelly grew stronger with each passing minute, her movements becoming more fluid, the glow beneath her skin brightening. Your DNA, Trevor said as they paused at a junction to check their route. What makes it so special that they would do this to you? Zelly's golden eyes met his. My people evolved on a world with extreme radiation cycles. Our cells can repair damage that would kill most species. We can adapt to toxins within a single generation, develop immunities within hours instead of years. She looked down at her hands, where the patterns of light shifted and swirled. To you, it looks like magic. To us, it is simply survival. And xenogenesis wants to weaponize it, Trevor realized. Or monetize it, Zelly added bitterly. Your Dr. Klein spoke often of patents and market exclusivity, while she extracted pieces of me. They continued through the tunnels until they reached a small, unmarked door. Trevor's engineering override codes granted them access, and they emerged into a secluded hangar where a single shuttle waited. Maya was already there, working frantically at a control panel. You made it, she exclaimed, relief washing over her face. I was beginning to think... She stopped short when she saw Zelly, her eyes widening. Oh my God, you're really... An alien, Zelly finished with a hint of amusement despite their situation. Yes, though I prefer visitor from beyond your stars. Maya smiled briefly, before returning to her serious demeanor. Morrison's been captured. Security found him trying to download the facility's research data. He bought us time, but they'll be here any minute. She handed Trevor a small data drive. Everything we could salvage about what they've been doing here. Morrison wants you to get it to Civil Alliance headquarters on Arcturus Station. Trevor took the drive, feeling the weight of responsibility it represented. What about you? I'm staying, Maya said firmly. Someone needs to make sure they don't destroy evidence before the authorities arrive. Rodney's locked himself in the security hub. He's erased the footage of your escape and created false trails to buy you time. Before Trevor could protest, the facility's main alarm system erupted in a deafening wail. Red warning lights began to flash throughout the hangar. That's the atmospheric breach alarm, Trevor said, recognizing the pattern immediately. They're venting sections of the facility to try to flush us out. The shuttle's prepped, Maya urged, pushing them toward the waiting craft. Go, now. Trevor helped Zelly aboard the shuttle, then turned back to Maya. We'll send help, I promise. Maya nodded, her expression resolute. Just make sure this all means something. The shuttle's door sealed shut as Maya retreated from the hangar. Trevor took the pilot's seat, grateful for the mandatory flight training all engineers received. The engines hummed to life beneath his hands, and the small craft lifted off the hangar floor. They're sealing the outer doors, Zelly observed, pointing to the massive hangar gates that were beginning to close. Trevor punched the emergency override, sending the shuttle forward at maximum acceleration. They shot through the narrowing gap with barely inches to spare, emerging into the perpetual twilight of Frosthaven's frigid atmosphere. Alarms blared on the control panel as the shuttle's sensors detected pursuit vehicles launching from the main facility. Trevor pushed the engines harder, climbing rapidly toward the cloud layer that would provide temporary cover. "Can you outrun them?" Zelly asked, strapping herself into the co-pilot seat. "Not for long," Trevor admitted. "This is a short-range shuttle. Our only hope is to reach the orbital transfer station before they can intercept us." As they broke through the cloud cover, the vast, star-filled expanse of space opened up before them. The orbital station was visible as a distant speck of light, orbiting the planet like a watchful eye. Behind them, 3 security vessels emerged from the clouds, their engines glowing hot as they gave chase. The shuttle's communication system crackled to life. "Unauthorized shuttle, this is Frosthaven Security," came a stern voice. "Return to the facility immediately, or we will be forced to disable your craft." Trevor ignored the command, focusing on plotting the most direct course to the orbital station. The shuttle shuddered as the pursuing vessels fired warning shots across their path. "They won't risk killing us," Trevor said, more to reassure himself than Zelly. "You're too valuable to them." "Do not be so certain," Zelly replied grimly. "Dr. Klein would rather see me dead than free to tell others what happened here." As if to confirm her words, the shuttle rocked violently as one of the security vessels scored a direct hit on their left stabilizer. Warning lights flashed across the control panel as the shuttle began to lose altitude. "We're not going to make it to the station," Trevor realized, fighting to maintain control of the damaged craft. Zelly placed her hand over his on the control yoke. "There is another way." Her skin began to glow more intensely, the patterns beneath the surface moving faster. "My people can interface with certain types of technology. If this shuttle uses quantum processors—" "It does," Trevor confirmed, understanding dawning. "Standard in all xenogenesis craft." "Then let me try." Zelly closed her golden eyes and placed both hands on the shuttle's control panel. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the displays flickered, and the shuttle's engines made a sound Trevor had never heard before, a harmonic resonance that seemed to vibrate through the entire craft. The shuttle surged forward with impossible speed, leaving their pursuers far behind. The stars outside the viewport blurred as the craft accelerated beyond its design capabilities. "How are you doing this?" Trevor asked in amazement. "I am convincing the quantum particles to cooperate more efficiently," Zelly explained, her voice strained with concentration. "But I cannot maintain it for long." The orbital station grew rapidly larger in their viewport. Trevor sent the emergency docking request, hoping that whoever was on duty would respond before Frosthaven Security could override their clearance. "Unidentified shuttle, state your emergency," came a cautious voice over the comm system. "Political asylum," Trevor replied, remembering the protocol Morrison had mentioned. "Arcturus Protocol 793, requesting immediate civil alliance protection." There was a pause that felt like eternity. Then, "Understood. Proceed to Emergency Dock 5. Alliance personnel will meet you there." Relief flooded through Trevor as the shuttle approached the docking bay. Zelly released her connection to the craft's systems, slumping back in her seat with exhaustion, the glow beneath her skin dimming to a faint pulse. "You did it," Trevor said, taking her hand. It felt cool against his skin, but no longer the icy cold of the containment chamber. "We made it." "Because of you," Zelly replied softly. "You heard me when no one else would listen." The shuttle docked with a gentle thud, and the airlock cycled open to reveal a team of Civil Alliance officers in formal blue uniforms. At their head stood a stern-faced woman who introduced herself as Commander Alara Voss, head of Alliance intelligence for the sector. "We've been building a case against xenogenesis for months," she explained, as medical personnel examined Zelly. "But we never had concrete evidence of sentient rights violations until now." Trevor handed over the data drive Maya had given him. Everything you need is here, and Zelly can testify to what they did to her." Commander Voss nodded grimly. "We're already dispatching a security team to Frosthaven to secure the facility and retrieve your friends. Dr. Klein and the board of directors will face criminal charges for violation of the Sentient Rights Accord." As promised, the Alliance moved swiftly. Within hours, news reached them that Frosthaven had been placed under Alliance jurisdiction. Maya, Rodney, and Morrison had been safely extracted, though not without resistance from Xenogenesis security forces. Dr. Klein had been apprehended while attempting to destroy research data. In the days that followed, Trevor watched as Zelly gradually recovered her strength. The medical facilities on Arcturus Station were among the best in the sector, and the Alliance doctors treated her with the dignity and respect she deserved. "Your cells are remarkable," one physician told her, with undisguised admiration. "They adapt and regenerate at rates we've never seen before. But we won't study you without your consent, and we certainly won't take samples without your permission." Zelly smiled at this, a gesture she had quickly adopted from observing humans. "Perhaps, in time, my people and yours can share knowledge properly, as equals, not as jailer and prisoner." Trevor visited her daily, bringing news of the investigation and the growing political fallout as the details of Xenogenesis's illegal operations became public. The corporation's stock had plummeted, and several board members had already resigned in disgrace. One evening, he found Zelly standing on the observation deck, gazing out at the stars. The station's artificial day cycle was ending, bathing the deck in the warm orange glow of simulated sunset. "Looking for your home?" Trevor asked, joining her at the viewport. "It would not be visible from here," she replied, a hint of sadness in her melodic voice. "But, yes, I was thinking of it, of my people." "The Alliance is sending diplomatic envoys to attempt contact," Trevor told her. "They want to make amends for what happened to you." Zelly turned to face him, her golden eyes reflecting the sunset light. "And what will you do now, Trevor Hayes? Return to engineering?" Trevor shook his head. "I don't think I can go back to fixing pipes after all this." He hesitated, then continued. "The Alliance has offered me a position with their Xenobiological Ethics Committee. They think my unique perspective might be valuable." "Because you saw me as a person, not a specimen," Zelly said softly. "Anyone would have done the same," Trevor insisted. "No," Zelly contradicted gently. "They would not. Many humans passed by my prison. Only you stopped to listen." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching as the first artificial stars began to appear in the station's simulated night sky. "I have been asked to serve as an ambassador for my people," Zelly said eventually, "to help establish proper relations between our species." "That's wonderful," Trevor said sincerely. "You'll be excellent at it." Zelly's expression grew thoughtful. "The position would require someone familiar with human customs to assist me. Someone I trust." She looked at him directly. "Would you consider such a role, Trevor Hayes?" Trevor felt a sudden warmth spread through him. "I can't think of anything I'd rather do." As they stood together on the observation deck, looking out at the vastness of space, Trevor reflected on how much his life had changed in such a short time. From a routine-bound engineer, to a fugitive, to a champion for interspecies ethics, all because he had stopped to listen to a voice crying for help. "Open the door, human, free me," Zelly had pleaded, and in freeing her, Trevor had somehow freed himself as well. In the weeks that followed, news came that more of Zelly's people had been located, survivors of Xenogenesis raids, who had been in hiding. The diplomatic missions were proceeding cautiously, but optimistically. There was talk of a formal alliance, of cultural exchange programs, of shared scientific endeavors that would benefit both species. But beneath the surface of these positive developments, troubling rumors persisted. Former Xenogenesis employees disappearing mysteriously, underground labs continuing the company's forbidden research, military interests quietly approaching former board members with offers of immunity in exchange for their knowledge. Trevor knew their story wasn't over. It was just beginning. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he would face them alongside Zelly, united by the simple truth that had brought them together. Every life, regardless of its origin, deserved freedom and dignity. As Arcturus Station continued its orbit, a small ship docked in its civilian bay. On board was a nondescript cargo container marked for disposal. Inside, carefully preserved in stasis, was a single vial of blue-tinged cellular material, the last sample of Zelly's DNA that Dr. Klein had managed to conceal before her arrest. The battle for Zelly's freedom had been won, but the war to protect her people's future was only just beginning.